By the time Ahmed Ali arrived in the UK in December 2020, he had been living in Europe for 13 years and had attempted to claim asylum in at least 3 other countries. The Moroccan national, who sometimes claimed to be Algerian, had been rejected by Spain, France, Germany, and possibly Scandinavian nations before boarding a ferry from Amsterdam. Ali had no legal right to enter the UK, but was not challenged by Border Force officers when he disembarked in Middlesbrough, and was only discovered and arrested for suspected immigration offences by police at a later date. At that point, the 45-year-old applied for asylum in Britain, claiming without evidence that he had fled Algeria because a group of dangerous criminals planned to harm him. The Home Office did not make a decision on his claim until almost 3 years later, after Ali had launched a terrorist attack inspired by the Israel-Gaza war that left 1 man dead and another fighting for his life. My dear piglets, before we continue with this story, I'd like to ask for you to put a trotter on the subscribe, a trotter on the like, and oink to your heart's content in the comments section below. At the time of the attack, Ali's asylum application was among more than 122,000 in a massive Home Office backlog, despite being one of the legacy cases that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak vowed to clear by the end of 2023. Sentencing Ali to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 44 years, a judge revealed no decision had been made on his appeal by the Home Office until after he'd been charged with these offences. No surprise there, my little piglets. The Home Office move along at a snail's pace. Ali's application for asylum was refused on November the 3rd, 2023, almost 3 weeks after his knife campaign in Hartlepool. In addition to failing to make a decision, the government also failed to use powers to declare asylum seekers who previously lived in safe European countries inadmissible to the UK system and deport them. Conservative MP Tim Loughton said the attack was a consequence of comprehensive institutional failure by the Home Office and associated agencies. That's probably because they all go home on a Thursday evening and don't come back until Monday morning, if they come back into the office at all, my little piglets. And a symbol of far wider issues in Britain's floundering immigration system. This was one of the most shocking cases of what happens when the UK is at the end of the line. He added, failed asylum seekers are not dealt with properly by our European neighbours, and our border control is not rigorous enough. Loughton, who examines asylum policy as part of the Parliament's influential Home Affairs Committee, called it extraordinary that Ali was not detained by Border Force on his arrival at the UK, and said he should have been sent back to Morocco or one of the European countries he lived in previously. Give that a go, my little piglet, with all the lawfare going on from the other lefty little law solicitor piglets out there. The UK authorities could and should have fast-tracked his detention and removal, or at the very least kept much closer tabs on him, especially when the alarm was raised about the dangers he posed, he added. It is through a multitude of failures by authorities at home and abroad that this dangerous individual was allowed to be at large in the UK, and his victim paid the ultimate price. While the Home Office says it has processes in place to deport failed asylum seekers to Morocco, it never sought to send Ali there. The loss of an EU-wide asylum returns mechanism due to Brexit, it's always Brexit, isn't it, means there is no agreement in place that would have allowed him to be sent back to one of the European countries he previously resided in. I'm sorry, but it's actually the ECHR that is the problem, and we should leave it as soon as possible, and in doing so bring in our own righteous human rights policies and rights of return. A European Commission spokesperson told The Telegraph, there is no agreement between the EU and the United Kingdom on the readmission of third country nationals. The European Commission has no mandate to negotiate such an agreement, as we already said in the past. This little piglet here asks why, and I'll tell you why. It's because the European Union want to punish the UK for actually having the balls to leave their absolutely shoddy, money-laundering, horrid organisation. Ali had been previously detained by immigration authorities in the Netherlands, Germany, and in the Swiss-French border, but he was not held in the UK. Instead, his outstanding asylum claim legally obliged the Home Office to provide him with accommodation and financial support until it made a decision, and in 2021 he was allocated a room in a shared house in Wharton Terrace, Hartlepool. Paid for by us, my little piglets. Described in court as a devout Muslim, Ali was teetotal and celibate, and started bullying and abusing housemates who did not adhere to his strict views. When 31-year-old Iranian asylum seeker Javid Nouri was moved into the house in August, he became a particular target because of his conversion from Islam to Christianity. As Alid flew into rages about his housemate storing beer in the fridge and having girlfriends, Nouri quickly realized he was extreme in his religion and considered him an apostate, the court heard. Alid called his housemate the devil and said he should be condemned by Allah, later escalating his behavior to staring at Nouri whenever he used the kitchen, a knife on the table beside him. After Hamas launched its murderous attack on Israel on October the 7th, Nouri noticed Alid gleefully watching what he called terrorist news on his phone. He was laughing, and every time there was a kill of somebody and he would see that, he would praise God, Nouri told the police after the attack. On October the 9th, he decided to take action, reporting his concerns about Alid to friends from his church, a home office accommodation provider, the migrant help charity, and the police. I contacted the Home Office and told them that we are not safe here. This man could attack us at any moment, Nouri said. I said, look, this guy is very dangerous and he is a terrorist. He is not normal. And I suppose you can guess what happened next, my little piglets. The trial heard that the police were of the view that Alid had committed no offences, so advice was given to Nouri that no further action was taken. Officers left it to the Home Office housing provider to intervene, but managers merely attended the house on October the 10th and warned Alid that he would have to leave if his behaviour continued. The complaints made by Nouri to the housing manager and the police provided an additional motive for Alid to resent and want to attack Nouri. And that is what he did days later. Alid burst into his bedroom armed with 2 knives in the early hours of October the 15th, hoping to strike while Mr. Nouri was asleep and utterly defenseless. He suffered 6 stab wounds but managed to fight his attacker off as other housemates ran to his aid, and Alid went into the street in search of a new victim. Such was the force of his attack on Nouri that one of his knives broke, but he held the remaining blood-stained blade aloft as he marched towards Hartlepool town centre. Graphic footage played in the court showed him rounding on the 70-year-old grandfather, Terence Carney, after they passed each other on the street by chance. Alid chased Carney with his 20-centimetre-long blade, stabbing him repeatedly as he begged for his life and continued the brutal assault even after his victim fell to the ground. Alid later told police he was acting in revenge for Israel, killing innocent people and children in airstrikes on Gaza, and swore by Allah that if he had the machine gun and more weapons, he would have killed more victims, the court heard. Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb said Alid showed no mercy to Mr. Carney and targeted him symbolically because he blamed Britain for the creation of Israel and wanted to kill an innocent victim like those dying in Gaza. Those who genuinely seek refuge in this country will embrace the values we hold dear, Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb told Teesside Crown Court. This attack was intended to subvert those values and to lead our government to pursue a particular course concerning the situation of Palestine by force and fear. Jill Mortimer, the MP for Hartlepool, commented, Mr. Carney was a victim of a failed asylum seeker who should never have been here in Hartlepool in the first place. I continue to pressure the government to enforce the removal of people whose asylum claims have been turned down and to speed up the vetting process so that those people who travel across Europe making multiple asylum claims in multiple countries are, under no circumstances, granted stay in the UK. So there we go, my little piglets. A sad story about the failure of the asylum scheme and the death of an innocent British civilian.